Hi everyone, I'm Vinny IDK. Today I'm going to be giving out some tips about staying creative when other things in your life may not be going as planned. I just want to give a quick caveat that a topic like this is quite personal, obviously. What I'm sharing is just my own personal experience with my own personal chaos, which in my case mainly is like trying to do art alongside a full-time job, having quite bad anxiety, and some other like chronic health problems. It goes without saying just to take whatever advice is actually applicable to you and use that if it's helpful, and just ignore anything else I say that just doesn't work for your situation. Anyway, I should probably get on with the actual video and introduce my friend Tiny here. He's a chaos wizard who responded to an ad and will be helping out with the video today. So Tiny, if you could just start us off with some like low level mild chaos, that would be great. Thanks. Is that cheese? I guess cheese is kind of chaotic. Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks, man. So, like low levels of chaos, you may still be able to keep your art completely separate from whatever disruption is going on in your life, even if it doesn't always feel like it. And by this, I don't mean actually separating the art you are making from how you're feeling and stuff. If you want to vent about stuff through your art or like try and make art that expresses how you feel, I think that's really good. Making art at its core is like a fun and safe activity, and if you're feeling stressed out by it, or if you don't feel safe about making stuff, then try and take a step back and ask yourself if the things that are stressing you out are to do with art, or if they're completely separate things that have somehow got mixed up with your art. Take this guy for example. He's a typical stressed out artist who's just sat down and can't think of anything to draw. Anything he does try and draw, he just thinks it's terrible and kind of gives up on it straight away. Luckily though, through the power of editing, we can see what's really going on. So this guy's stressed about making money from his art. Well, that's just a classic. He's also wondering what the point of making art is in a world that's soon to be dominated by AI artists. Oh, and what's this? Time is precious and any day could be your last. You could get hit by a car tomorrow and this could be your last piece of art. Now this guy's trying to work out how to express all the beauty and sadness that he's experienced over his entire life in this single piece of art, and if he doesn't, then he's a failure. Yikes. Well, the bad news is that I don't think I have the answer to literally any of those problems, because they're just massive, complicated problems that will probably take years to answer. However, the good news is that I think these are external pressures unrelated to art. In case this all sounds a bit abstract and doesn't make much sense, I'd like to share a story about me trying to separate my art from life stresses. So last year, I was feeling very burnt out and just kind of wanting a change, and I ended up quitting my full-time office job. I didn't really have a specific plan, I just kind of had a decent amount of savings and I just wanted a break basically. But one of the things I was excited to do was try and spend more time on art because I've always wanted to make some money from it. However, despite having way more time than I used to, I just wasn't drawing a lot. And when I would draw, it was just quite a stressful time. And I think I just kind of created this expectation that my art was going towards like a career. So whenever I was drawing, I was just so focused on kind of this far off point in the future and like getting good enough, whatever that means, at art to be able to do it like professionally. But it meant that I was just kind of really over analyzing my art and overthinking my art, and just any time that I was drawing, it was purely focused on like, am I improving, or what do I need to work on to make this more professional, which is fine. I think it's fine to think like that, but I think it's not helpful during the process of actually making the art. That's more stuff to like think about, I don't know, outside of drawing time. Anyway, I just got to a point where I was very stressed out and I was kind of running out of money and I just wasn't really drawing. So I ended up just getting a part-time job at a cafe just so that I didn't have to worry about the money part of my life for like the short term. It was only when I was kind of back doing art again that I could understand that I had mixed up two huge separate problems in my life. One of which is just being money and how much it means to me versus like how much having free time means. And then my other problem that I was trying to solve was just what am I doing with art, kind of as a career, or what kind of art do I want to do, what do I like doing, just kind of artistic exploration. But those two problems are huge problems that will take, years of your life to solve, and putting them together like that is just a mess. This was quite a slow process for me, obviously, and it's still ongoing. Um, but I think if you're worried that you're going through something similar, it can just be quite good to ask yourself why making art doesn't feel like a safe thing you're doing, or why it, I don't know, like drawing is fun. And most of the time, if you're not feeling that way, the problem isn't really related to your feelings about art itself. It's more other stuff going on in your life, even though it might not feel like that at the time. Um, One thing that I've noticed is whenever I get really burnt out or just in a bad way about art, it's always because I have some kind of external time pressure. Like, I'm like, oh, by the time I'm this age, I want to be doing this, or I want to be this good in this much time, or blah, 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 blah. And kind of all my problems always seem to be solved just by accepting that it takes a long time and will take even longer than I thought it was going to take. Um, so that's quite a good way of kind of working out where the pressure's coming from if it's unclear to you. Anyway, let's move on. Tiny, can you up the chaos levels a bit, please? What is this, man? Can you do something else? I just saw you take that out of your pocket. Are you not even like magic?
Squeak.
Wait, you can
Squeak,
talk?
squeak. Squeak, squeak, squeak.
What are you
Squeak,
talking about, man?
squeak.
You can't be
Squeak.
serious. Like, I
Squeak,
can't be dealing with this
squeak.
right now.
Squeak.
Oh my god, you're not joking.
Squeak,
Have you not been listening to what I've been saying? I'm so stressed out right now. I can't do this. So how this whole thing with Tiny's shaken out is a good example of just how life can just get really chaotic out of nowhere sometimes, even when you don't expect it. Um, I'm going to talk a little bit about how to try and deal with that. In the background, I have some abstract art, or as the cool kids say, automatic drawing. I'll get to it in a bit because it relates to what I'm saying. But yeah, the first thing I wanted to say is that a very, very simple thing that I found that helps is just having or trying to create a little bit of a ritual. For me, it sounds very simple, and almost everybody that's listening probably does this. But I make tea and I put on my headphones and I sit down and start drawing. Like, I can't draw without music and tea because it's just what I've learned to do. But I really recommend just, having like, even if it's like, oh, I do my art at the dining table, or I do it here, or blah, 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 and having like a playlist or just something that can kick your brain into gear and be like, oh, it's art time. And bonus points if part of this ritual is things that kind of relax you and just make your life more enjoyable. Because as your life gets worse and filled with more chaos, you really need to start focusing on like trying to cram in as much things that you also enjoy and help you relax to kind of like fight against it. And then another thing is that when life gets overwhelming, surprise, you can feel overwhelmed. For me, I'm really bad at making decisions when my life is stressful. Um, and I also am just generally really bad at sticking to schedules. It just doesn't really work for me. Something I've been doing this year, which is the last 20 days as of recording this, but it's been really good, is I made a Discord channel just for myself, and in it I have different sections. One of them is like brain dump. So I just like every day it's just like a little quick diary thing. And then I have like a to-do list for the day. It's just a diary slash planner. I find it being on Discord is really good for me because I'm always on my computer, just like getting distracted or doing art or whatever. So having it there, easy to access, like actually makes me use it rather than me trying to like create some super planned system elsewhere that I'm just never going to look at. Having a system where you can just kind of clock in, sit down, maybe you've got half an hour, you can just start drawing, and then you're not really trying to plan your entire like crazy 2023 on the grind. This is how I'm going to, become the best artist ever system. I don't really think that works when there's a lot going on. I find it's better to just really focus on how do I make the act of sitting down and drawing as fun and relaxing and enjoyable as possible, because it should be an escape from everything else that's going on, not really be part of it. So I like my little Discord system because I can sit down, I have a go doing some art, and then I just write a note to myself for the next day saying, tomorrow, do this. And that's it. That's how I plan stuff. I don't really plan further than that. I just kind of do it day by day. Another thing I try and do as much as possible is lower the barrier to entry to doing art. So in the background, I've been doing some automatic drawing, which is something I've been doing a lot of since feeling kind of overwhelmed and stuff. Basically what I'm doing is not really thinking too much and kind of just drawing without trying to make it representational of anything. If I'm thinking about anything, it's mainly just like about shapes and their interactions with each other. Like, does this shape look good with this other shape? And basically the goal of this is to just get into a state where you're not really stressed out about other stuff and you're just enjoying the act of putting lines down on paper. There's a good video from Cynics about this, which I'll link below, and there's also that video that everybody's probably seen by now from Proco about it, but I'll link that as well. But I didn't really understand the point of it until I did it quite a bit, because it's very different to kind of what I was used to. Drawing without thinking too much, and then after you're done drawing, you can, it's good to kind of reflect on it and see your tendencies. So like here I'd be like, oh, I like doing big chunky shapes. And then either trying to push that in your next one or maybe try something else. And also, and you'll find that the stuff you learn doing this actually has a big impact on your art. You can see your art style appear even in kind of abstract stuff. It just is like the lowest possible stakes version of doing art there is, I think, because I'm not even trying to make something that looks like anything. I'm kind of just drawing. And some people's look a lot better than mine. Like that their automatic drawing kind of looks like a finished piece of art, even though it like is abstract and stuff. But I think it doesn't really matter, and hopefully me showing you mine that doesn't really look that appealing maybe can help you understand the point of it. But I suggest just trying it, because the other good thing is that you don't have to come up with ideas. You're not, the worst part about doing art sometimes is just sitting down and being like, I don't know what to draw. So whether it's automatic drawing or it's just kind of doing whatever your comfort zone is, if that's just drawing like, I don't know, floating heads, that's something I like to do, just like heads without doing any anatomy below like the neck, or I don't know, whatever you like drawing. If you can find something that you just feel comfortable and just it helps you get into like the kind of flow state, I recommend doing that whenever you've got time. And the other fun thing about doing this is that it helps you work on probably the funnest and maybe most neglected part of art, at least for me, which is just being able to not dismiss your ideas and just follow through with them to the end. Even though I said earlier, I'm not really trying to think about anything as you do this, just because you have a brain, you will think about stuff, and probably it will be art related because you're doing art. So this is all the footage in this video is from the same like drawing session, and my shapes were slowly getting more kind of like angular, and basically it got to this point where I saw something that I thought was interesting, like whatever this is. I thought it was like, oh, it's an interesting shape, and you see, I was like, oh, maybe it's a spaceship or something, and I was trying to draw a little dude on top of it and just messing around with the shapes. But then I kept messing around with it more, and I was like, oh, actually, this isn't a spaceship. And I even made a copy here because it's like, maybe it's a spaceship, maybe it's a fish. And as you can see, I'm turning it into a weird looking fish. But basically, doing art this way, where you start with no idea, still allows you to like have ideas, but this way there's like less kind of pressure because you don't have to think about them. You kind of your your eyes will just see something in what you're doing, and then you're like, oh, do I want to push that forward? Do I want to turn it into a fish or not? I finished the fish, and then I was like, I don't remember how I got started on this, but anyway, I was thinking about, I guess, sea stuff. So I was trying to draw a crab here, but I don't really know what crabs look like. So I thought it might be easier to draw it as a mechanical crab, because I can kind of draw mech stuff, and I was thinking that, I don't know, like crab shells are similar to kind of like mechanical armor, and it was just basically it's just a really lazy way of me not wanting to use a reference and just being like, oh, I'm going to try and draw a crab from imagination, and it turned out looking mechanical. Anyway, you can kind of just see it happening now. It just kind of, I was trying to follow my intuition and like stick with whatever idea I was coming up with. So I kind of started drawing this kind of like mechanical chopping fish thing. There might be kind of like a guy in a mech suit, and it's like his job at the fish factory in the future to chop up fish underwater for some reason. Um, anyway, I'll just kind of let it play out. But basically, that's just why I want to advocate for kind of this way of doing things, rather than trying to be like, oh, I want to be a concept artist, so I need to practice perspective and practice, I don't know, learn about anatomy and stuff, because that's good. There's nothing wrong with it. But I think especially when life is a bit chaotic, that can feel very overwhelming and very difficult, and just like difficult to know the steps to get there, and you can just get more burnt out and worse. So I think kind of trying to approach it in terms of, oh, how do I just have as much fun with art as possible and like not worry too much about it? It can kind of lead to very it can lead to about as much artistic development as kind of grinding it. But this way it's just more fun, and you'll connect more with your gut, which is a really important skill in art, just because you need to understand like what you're thinking and what you like about your drawings and what you don't like, and trying to create a safe space where you can just mess around with art is like a very valuable thing to do. That's all. I'm starting to paint it now. I spoilers. I kind of like did a classic Vinny thing, which is like getting it to a certain level of polish and then just leaving it because I couldn't be bothered to render it anymore. But it was still good. Basically, just having an idea and pushing it through to the end. If you can do that, I think that is a really good thing to do, because it will trick you into actually learning art stuff. Like, I don't know, even just coming up with this idea for a YouTube video and finishing it, I've learnt so much random stuff. Like, I've had to paint cheese for the first time. What else did I do? I painted a rat for the first time. Did some character design stuff. And I finished the video, so that's cool. I'm a YouTuber now, I guess. And I don't know, fun things can happen when you're not really trying too much. Like even when I was recording this video, like I was recording some footage to talk about automatic drawing, and then just how this actual piece of art came out was just so chaotic, and I was like, oh my god, this is perfect. It's so on theme because I mean, as you can see, like it didn't start from me having an idea about this. It was just like this weird chaotic abstract drawing spiral into this. So I don't know. I hope this is a good example of how you should follow your ideas, even if it doesn't. I'm not really that happy with the actual final result of this thing, to be honest. But at least it's done, and you know, like I I could have spent the same time I spent making this video practicing perspective and stuff, but like this forced me out of my comfort zone a bit, which is good, and I've made a kind of finished piece of art. So like that's the main thing really. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap it up now. I'm gonna be trying to make 2 videos a month, so a video every 2 weeks. I don't really know what they're gonna be about yet, but we'll see. I also have a podcast if you wanna form a parasocial relationship with me and find out a bit more about my life. I'll link it down below. But yeah, if you've watched this far, then I appreciate you because it has. I mean, there's been. I mean, I could have done some things better, but I'm just at this point. I just want to finish the video. So I appreciate you sticking through all the maybe less polished parts of the video. But yeah, thank you. Goodbye.